This is LeBron James' first ever NBA game, throwing down a thunderous dunk in transition against the Sacramento Kings. This is him at the age of 31 years old, making potentially the best defensive play in the history of the league, as he went the length of the floor in record time to block Andre Iguodala in the last minute of Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And then this play here was just from a couple of weeks ago. James is not human. And is he so unhuman that he could play until he's 40 years old? Let's talk about this. The first thing is, it's really not that insane for players to go deep into their 30s nowadays with modern medicine and everything. I mean, just look at Tim Duncan. He played until he was 39 years old, and he was a key piece for the San Antonio Spurs all the way up into his retirement. And James is farther along athletically than Tim Duncan ever was. You can say the same thing for Paul Pierce, who at 37 years old was a key contributor for the Wizards on a deep playoff run that they went on. And given that LeBron is now 33 and is way better than those two were at this point, I don't think this is that insane to think about. An interesting player to compare him to is Kobe Bryant, who in his 15th season had regressed athletically some. At that point, Kobe was going way more towards fadeaways, jump shots, and using his craftiness to score more so than just his sheer athleticism. An interesting stat is that in 2011, Kobe's 15th year, he only dunked the ball 42 times, and he played the entire season. We compare that to where LeBron James is right now, this year, his 15th season. James has already dunked the ball 59 times, in basically half the time of Kobe Bryant. Typical players at this stage of their career would not be doing what LeBron James can do athletically, and that is a testament to his physical nature. Typically 6'8", 250 pounds is what you'll see him listed as, and I think that's the first thing you can really look at when it comes to how he could extend his career. Specifically, how it will allow him to take on potentially a more physical toll if he was to change positions, to go down to the small ball 4 position, a spot that is so important in the NBA nowadays. Look at a guy like Marvin Williams, okay? For most of his career, Marvin Williams was not good enough to start as a small forward. Not talented enough, not athletic enough. Charlotte decided to slide him down to the power forward position, and he has been quietly one of the more valuable, lower usage guys in the NBA for about 2 seasons now. Marvin Williams. Imagine the effect playing small ball 4 could do to an older LeBron James. Same thing with Paul Pierce. Even as Pierce's athleticism declined, his strength was able to hold up, and suddenly, having that extra perimeter player on the floor and not asking Pierce to do too much offensively really made the Wizards a lot better. And if it wasn't for a John Wall injury, they could have went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals to play LeBron James and the Cavaliers. So just think about all that for a second. Seeing the effect that going to the power forward position for natural small forwards like Paul Pierce and Marvin Williams did, imagine what that would do for LeBron James for a second. So even if James' athleticism eventually declines, because we have to assume it will, I think he's going to be okay. Next, we can just get to his jump shot, because as you would expect, this one's pretty obvious. If you're not able to beat guys off the bounce as much, you got to make up for it in other ways. And James, while a lot of his three-pointers have been unassisted this season, only 33% of his threes have been assisted. He's been knocking them down. A lot of these are contested, a lot of them are step backs. He's going into them with confidence, and he's having maybe his best shooting season ever. He's shooting 39% from 3 on 5 attempts a game, and I think that's a very good sign as he could get older. I think this also shows just how focused he is on improving his game, how he's always able to adapt. And if you have someone like him who can change his game as his athleticism declines on top of be a knockdown shooter, I think he's going to be okay. Now we can also talk about James in the low post. This is something that he's developed over the past few seasons. We've seen the effect that having a back-to-the-basket game can have for someone like a Kobe Bryant. Of course, Michael Jordan was fantastic as he got older from the low post. I would expect a similar thing for LeBron. A big thing with James is how often he draws fouls. So even if he's not hitting turnaround jumpers, making hook shots, getting by guys on spin moves, he's probably going to be getting to the free throw line quite a bit on these post-ups. But if he can generate himself a few more baskets a game just from these type of plays and not having to beat guys off the dribble, not having to play in the pick and roll, that's what's going to allow him to extend his career, as he's unable to just be an athletic freak all the time. I mentioned the strength earlier. This is where the strength is really going to come into play with him, because I assume that that's going to maintain itself, even as he gets up closer to 40 years old. Next, we get to the playmaking. I don't expect LeBron's passing to ever go away. He's shown himself to be one of the smartest NBA players ever. I thought for a decent amount of his career, he was great at just executing passes, getting teammates open, but where he's gone to expert levels is reading defenses now. His ability to anticipate help defenders, forcing switches, recognizing how the defense is defending him or defending someone else. I mean, he's really 5 steps ahead of everybody. And I think this kind of mirrors what Draymond Green does. If you remember earlier when I said LeBron could slide down to the power forward position as he gets older, I think he can make a similar impact to what Draymond Green does as a passer, or maybe even more, because I have to assume even a 38-year-old LeBron James is still going to have more abilities off the dribble than Draymond will. But even if James is relegated to more of being bringing the ball up floor, not beating guys off the dribble that much, he should still be able to average a solid 6 to 8 assists a game anyway. I mean, Draymond Green manages to do it, and he had to get better as a passer. LeBron James is already supremely gifted in this area. So even if James is not able to be the big-time scorer as he gets closer to 40 years old, he's going to be able to make plays. So he's going to always have value as an offensive player. Now, given that he won't be the big-time scorer, we assume at some point here the guy is at least somewhat human. Does that mean that he might have to end up on a team with a big-time scorer next to him or whatever? Yeah, sure. But that's the type of thing you attack that when it becomes necessary, you know? And actually, if I can just get back to Draymond Green for a second, I think an older LeBron James, not as athletic, looks a lot like Draymond, just because, I mean, if you picture a power forward who has great passing abilities and an appreciation of team basketball, that is kind of LeBron James. And even then, I do expect LeBron to be better offensively than Draymond is. So even as LeBron is unable to make these sort of plays as his career goes along, we assume at a certain point it's got to happen, I think you can picture him making a lot of plays like these, even as he gets closer to 40 years old, being more reliant on his three-pointer, which has really been impressive this season, playing the small ball 4 position. Hopefully, he would be okay with doing that, because I think it would help him out a lot. And then taking guys into the low post. I think all of that could make up for James' not being as athletic as he gets older, and I think you combine all these things and perhaps a little bit of help with minutes reduction, I think LeBron James really could play until he's 40 years old.